And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of SNG Weekly. And this week, we're going to work on the Skydiver some more, and we're going to try to finish it. I think we are going to finish it. There's lots of parts and things to be done to it still, and you're going to see how it all gets done, including making a new canopy for it, because I'm really not happy with the one we have. We're also going to have our new question and answer part of the show. You guys sent in some really interesting and rather appropriate questions, I feel, for the first week. Thank you very much for that. We're going to answer those, and we're going to show you Belle's Batgirl. She corrected me, and I'm still getting it wrong. It's Batgirl cowl. I'm going to show you that being made and being painted, and we'll show you my Batman cowl too, which I'm not sure we showed. This, of course, is the prop from Martians Attack SNG. And we've taken the week off from it because we had a lot to get done on the Skydiver. But that's going to be done this week. And next week, we're getting back to our movie project pretty much full time. And you're going to see a lot happen with that, including the Martian puppet being built, the spaceship being finished off because we had that dome to put underneath it, which means more vacuum forming fun and gears turning and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be great. Just wanted to let you know we haven't forgot about Martians Attack SNG. So let's get busy. I wanted to show you guys this wonderful cape that Mary made for me. And of course she did this all from scratch, a little pattern help, but mostly her own design from scratch. This lovely, we call it pleather, right, Mary? So it's got the webbing in it. It's kind of hard to see because it's very broad, but it's there. And this, of course, is the cowl painted. And no, I'm not going to put it on right now. It'll mess my hair up. Which goes about there. Now, what is going to happen is we're going to have this, and this was just a quickie job I did of a collar for it, and she's going to make the proper collar. Now, this is going to fit underneath the cowl itself, and the reason for that is it's going to make it easier for me to turn my head in it, and this will just fit over all of that and have that kind of look to it. Let me get my big fat hands out of there. But that is just going to be so cool. I can't wait to see this all come together. And that's going to happen over the next week, because next week we're also going to start working on the rest of the costume. I have it all. I have the boots, the gauntlets, the body armor. Not armor, but it's called body armor. It's very thick, kind of leotard spandex material that's all gray. And I've got the boots. I think I may be repeating myself, but I got the belt, the utility belt as well. But I'm going to make the belt buckle for it and put the bat on the chest, and we're going to do the neck. And then we're going to put the whole thing on me, and that should be good for some laughs. So what I've been doing here is working on Batgirl, and it is Batgirl because Batgirl herself called me and said it's not Batwoman, Steve, it's Batgirl. So there we are. I don't know why I'm talking like a cowboy. I don't even sound like a cowboy. I always wanted to play one, though. Yes, so what I did is I took a Dremel tool and a little buffing thing. You've seen me do it before, and I got rid of the seams. No seams, see? Seems to me that there are none. Anyway, and I patched some of the problems and went around with the Dremel tool, made all this nice and round and smooth and gorgeous and all that kind of stuff. So I made a little quickie mask stand out of repurposed stuff because you're going to get them messed up anyway. I'm going to paint it next. Once you've used rubber cement paint, this is what happens to the brush. But once you put it in here again, the brush reanimates. So a good word to the wise, if you want to save money on brushes, don't throw it out because it gets reanimated, as you can see. Now, you don't have to use an airbrush, and in fact, you'll get better coverage this way. This is rubber cement paint with rubber cement thinner. And for those of you just now checking in and not saying, geez, why is he using rubber cement to paint a rubber mask? I'll tell you the story one more time. And that is that when I was working at Don Post Studios in the early 70s making their masks, the big secret was what rubber paint they used, because you could literally take a mask and stretch it across the room and it wouldn't flake, it wouldn't crack, it wouldn't do anything. It was like it was part of the rubber, like the rubber was tinted or something. What happened is we were using benzene. You might have heard of that, wonderful carcinogenic, and that originally was the thinner for rubber cement for many, many years. And now they've replaced it with Bestine, but it does the same thing. It kind of bloats the rubber, the cell structure of the rubber, expands it, and allows the pigment and the rubber cement itself to become impermeated into the latex, which does two things. It protects the latex so it lasts longer from all kinds of elements. And it also makes a paint that is like the rubber itself is tinted. You can stretch it across the room. It will not rub off. It will not crack. It won't do anything but sit there and be paint. It's really great. A lot of people use Pax paint to paint rubber mask. In my opinion, it's not as good. You might be able to get a little bit some better effects with it in some cases, but overall I prefer to use the rubber cement paint. And as you can see right now how quickly the coverage is on this, and before your eyes this is starting to look like what it's supposed to be. In a second here I'll be all the way down this side. Now I'm going to go back over it a couple of times, and that's it. And you could airbrush it after this if you want to even it out more, and so you don't see the paint strokes, but usually a second brushing will do it. It doesn't take a lot of this paint to cover, and I just love it. I think it's the best. Now I really don't know what the health risks are of the Bestine, but I do know it's not benzene, although it does smell similar. It's good stuff though. It's working really good. So you can see now it's starting to look like a cowl instead of a rubber thing. We'll come back and take a look at this when it's all done. Well, look what we got here. We got Belle's cowl, and it looks pretty good, and I made this little stand for it to sit on out of repurposed materials around the studio. So she's got something to stick it on while it's sitting around. It still has to be lined inside, and it has to be put on her, and we've got to cut it in the back here and allow her red hair to come out of a slot right around here. But this is really nice and thick, and it's going to last a really long time, and it's very well leather looking like, whatever that means. So, isn't that cool? Now we're going to go see something else. I'll never forget when Doug Drexler called me and said, "Hey Steve, how would you like to have the Cochran statue that I sculpted and was used in Star Trek Enterprise with Scott Bakula?" It was in his room because it's one of his heroes. This is the father of warp drive, and of course the first time you heard this described was in First Contact when Geordi described to Zefram Cochrane where his statue was in honor of him creating warp drive, being the father of warp drive, and being the father of Star Trek in a sense, if you think about it. And he called me and said, how would you like to make a mold on this? And you can offer these to the fans. That was really a cool moment because, for one, I wanted one of these myself very, very badly. I mean, look at it. It looks like him. It's the exact pose that Geordi describes, the way he was standing in his one foot like this. It's a great piece. Doug did a great job on it. And, of course, it's an icon now and also a canon set dress or prop from Enterprise. And these are now and have been available on our store to you to own yourself. And these are canon. They are not screen used, obviously, but they are a casting made from the screen used one. So they are accurate replicas of the actual screen used prop, right down to the base, which our good friend Jeff Helps made based on the original base that Doug had made for the statue in the TV show. So it's an exact replica of it, and it's made to look like Marvel. Really, really cool. And you can go to our website, steveneillsgarage.com, SNGWeekly.com and go to our store and own one for yourself. I sure love mine. Lots more work to do on the Skydiver, and before I can really paint the bottom, I completely forgot that I had not finished off the these. They have to be blended in more, and they don't like to blend in very well. And so, and then there's this sort of duplicolor, not sort of, it is duplicolor, and it is a gunmetal, which is what these appear to be painted. So we want to duplicate what's on the bottom. Don't paint that on there like that. Once all this dries, then I'm going to start doing all the shading and everything that goes on down there, because I think we pretty much got this. Although I'm going to have to touch up the gold. Always save your parchment paper, because you can use it again. Oh. And I've also evened up these drain holes here and here, because there were some irregularities in them that I saw I didn't like. So we want to make this just as nice and clean as we can. Now, obviously, these drain holes were not in the TV show version, but the TV show version probably didn't have to drain water the way this one will in the real world, working as a submarine. We should have a matchup. Right before your very eyes. Ta-da! Now, of course, I have to go around and do some matching of the red stripes and that kind of thing, and retouch up the gold here. I did not like the canopy on the Skydiver. It was not fitting correctly. It was way too wide here. I tore it off. It just was looking awful. And then I tried to heat it and narrow it. It just wasn't working. So what I've done here is I've taken, I didn't have a solid piece of balsa. So I took some strip balsa I had and made a block by just CAing just around the middle, so the CA didn't go all the way out to the joins and I could sand it easily. And I shaped myself a very nice canopy that's accurate to what they had on the Skydiver. Now, I could just vacuum form this, but I'm going to find that if I do, I'm going to pick up some of the wood grain, some of the other issues. You can see that we got the nice flat area here for our where the window goes, and the rest of them will be on the side. I'm not going to mark them, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to, once I have the canopy out of clears, I'm going to cut stencils for the windows and do the trick where I use a lot of primer and then paint it gold and then remove it, and I'll have this nice relief so the windows are sunken in more. So what I'm going to do to very quickly get this made out of material that's less porous than I can sand evenly and consistently to a smooth glassy feel is make an alginate, a dental alginate on it. The same stuff that I use to make a life mask with. I've got some quick set stuff here, and I've got this here, which I'm going to build around it like so. So I'm going to glue this down to the table because it will float. A little kicker, and we're going to stick that on there. Like, oh, there's something underneath it. That just figures. Big old chunk of something. Okay. That's sort of down like that. This has been sealed with a little bit of Krylon. And now I'm going to a little bit of kicker, because it'll make it go off easier. I'm going to make this nice wall around it, so we use less material. That's the theory. Dot it there, kick it. Okay, so here we go. We're going to get some water. Let's see, this should be just enough to do this. We got our pink strawberry flavored alginate. I'm going to pour it in there and mix it all around. Now keep in mind that alginate shrinks. And I did spell it wrong in my post. I was just looking. It shrinks a lot. But it doesn't shrink that much, and believe me, it won't hurt us because still this canopy could be just a wee bit smaller. Okay, we're going to let that sit for a second, and because it won't take long for it to go off. And then we're going to open it up, and we're going to pour some stone in it. We're going to open this up now. I've already started getting this off. And then I remembered, Mary, come shoot video. And thank you, Mary. We're going to open it. This should open up like really, really easy. Like, just going to tear this a little bit. Pop this right out. And there you go. And got a little bit of moisture on there. But what we need is right there. Okay, we're going to put this in the oven, and we have a little bubble right there. But none of this matters because now I can take this and sand this just perfectly smooth, and then we're going to put it on that vacuum form over there and vacuum form a canopy in just a little while. But luckily, because it's so small, look, this looks like a silicone mold, but it's not. I mean, that stuff is very fragile. We're going to put this in the oven and dry it out. Can you see this? Are you up close enough? Can you see that? No? Okay. Well, it's all shiny, see, and it kind of gleams and stuff. It's pretty smooth. I still feel some stuff in it I don't like, but the plastic's going to remove some of that. We need a canopy, and so what we're going to do, this is really beautiful. It really looks nice. We're going to put that on there like that, see? We got a piece of plastic in here. We're going to turn this on and melt the plastic, or at least make it soft. Or does that make it so? We have two ways of getting the air. One way is to use the vacuum pump, which we don't have, or this big shop vac. There. And we have this nice hand pump here, which is really a nice thing on this. It makes it like a big Mattel vacuum form. Kobe gave me this, and I can never thank him enough for giving us this vacuum form to use here at SNG. He used it on Next Generation to make the a lot of the props and the tricorders and props like that for the Next Generation. So that in and of itself makes this kind of a really neat thing to have because it's a little bit part of history right here. We are heating up the plastic. I can feel it's warm up there, so I know it's on the go. It's sandwiched into this, which I'll release and drop down, hit that and suck that, and we should have a can. God, I love this thing! This hand pump thing it almost works better than the actual vacuum itself, because once it's down, like the Mattel, it just works perfectly. We got one the first time, it looks like. I should just pop right out of there, like that. And there we have a beautiful, wonderful, marvelous, right to the table, flat, perfectly shaped canopy that will fit our Skydiver like a champ. And we're going to show you that pretty soon because we're going to mask this off and start putting primer and all that stuff on it. I love it. Got one the first freaking time. Well, look at that. This is our canopy, and as you recall, we did it by, of course, making the vacuum form piece on the wonderful vacuum form over there, and on that wonderful buck we made, which we originally made from wood and then made out of stone, and that got us all the way to this point here. Now, of course, this was masked, and a lot of primer stuck on it, and then the gold, and let sit overnight so everything got nice and dry, and pull off the tape, and we have a beautiful snug fit All I have to do is put a little bit of canopy glue on that. We've got the little bit of edge showing either side, and just glue it on and walk away. Gorgeous, beautiful, better than the one they had. Oh. I have been a busy bee, a boy, modeler, something like that, on the bottom. And I've got it all painted on the bottom. I've also evened up the drain holes. Now, these are not, of course, Canon, but they're very functional because when you're lifting a model like this up out of the water and it's filled with water, you want it to drain. And this will allow it to drain very quickly because this is the lowest point in the keel here and get the water out of there. I've painted all these in. These have relief from when I did the tape technique. These are all blended now. It's really looking good. All the right colors are on there, and of course the stripes are put in. I also put this over here for now. I've had to hand make these screens. There really aren't any screens. I don't know what they used originally, but you can just make them out in there. I got those inside as well, those little screens. I'm going to next put in the windows that go here, and I have to do something about this top because it's very uneven, and so I'm going to cut a piece and lay it in here and repaint it and put some detail on it. I think there's supposed to be a hatch there. There were no parts for that. There are parts missing that were either not made or in the shuffle from the time this went from whoever originally had it to Byron and then to me. The parts went missing. Of course, here's the original canopy, which just did not want to fit. Worth a darn. It looks better from this side because I did what I did to it, but I took it off and I cleaned up all this again. And also, of course, the bottom is painted rather beautifully, and we got our screen in there. Yeah? Did you get it? Okay, so we got the screen in there, and of course, I cleaned up all this area back here. The magnet now looks like it's part of it. Gave this all kinds of relief. And I'm going to have to do the same thing up here because I had to recess this so that the magnet would fit in. So I need to go in here with some epoxy sculpt and fix that whole area in there, make it a little bit better and make it look more like this. All cleaned up. This all goes together very well now. These engines have been painted. I have a little bit more touching up to do on the paint. This fits very snug now. I've got some red putty on that because there was some deformities in there which I didn't like. I'm going to turn this upside down. You can see how I did these with strip styrene. It was not easy, but they're in, and it looks better than just having the open holes there. This will close up rather nicely, and magnets suck it right in, and we are shut. That's just dust. This is just beautiful to look at this model from this angle and look at the bottom. Now the bottom's more weathered than the top because the bottoms on submarines and boats and ships and cars generally are more beat up than they are on the top. Of course, we have these fins here, which I still have to do a little bit of weathering on these and stuff, but those just attach like that. And of course, that's to get to our pump jets, and they're held on by magnets, just like that. So this is coming along really well. Okay, a little bit of B camera to show you what's going on here because Mary's upstairs working. This part here I made from all kinds of scrap stuff. I made the hatch out of some what do you call that stuff? Plexiglass. These are servo arms here. This is a piece of plexiglass rod. These are the ends off of servo arms, and I'll show you why. Because this part's missing, and we really need this part to be in this model. I see we're getting the lights above in there. I got to put a little bit of screen in there, and these are going to be some more servo arms. And then this whole piece will just drop right in there, like so, after I paint it what looks like all metal, gunmetal. Over here, you can just see the windows are being fitted in. I'm using clear canopy glue, so it takes a while to dry, but we got the windows in. We need to get them in flush. I'm going to take a little tulip around to fill the gaps. We got those in. We got these screens in, finally. I made these by hand, no fun. I had to do it out of styrene because I couldn't find anything that looked enough like it. So those are in. Those look pretty good. I think maybe I covered that before in the other video. We still have this to fix up, but on this one here, it's quite nice. So we're going to do that on that side too. Probably not today, but we're definitely going to do that tomorrow. And again, another day goes by and I say, we are almost done. And we will be done today, but we're actually not, as it turns out. I could not stand how lumpy and bumpy all this was up here in the model, so I figured this would be better than inset, plus I had more control. And then we need that little bit of what looks like insect screen there, so guess what? I've got insect screen repair tape, and I had just exactly the right stuff, so pretty much, I mean, it's really close. So we're going to go with that. This has been primered. We're going to paint this gunmetal, and we got our part. So this part came out really clean and smooth now. I wish the whole model looked this good. Wow, it does, but I mean, you know. And we got this part in here, which is this little hatch thingy-bingy that should be here. Whatever thingy-bingy is, but it sure looks good. I need to put the two arms in there next. The other thing I just did is I Vaseline up the magnet and did this because I've got this stuff in there. Epoxy sculpt, the modeler's best friend. I'm sure I say the garage kit modeler's best friend. The idea behind that was to do what I just did because I had to drill out a lot of material here to get this to magnetically couple, as you can see just by the way it's pulling. And I just need to remove this excess here. And then I'm going to let that harden up. And what that's going to do is I'm going to carve this into looking like parts and details that are missing since I originally carved this open so that this would fit in. It's hard to do with a metal tool. I really should be using a wooden tool. Now we're going to smush that up again, smooth this out a bit, because later I'm going to sculpt this so it gets a little bit firmer into looking like details. Now let's double check, make sure it's all fitting in there just right again, and it's closing properly, which it appears to do. Very nice. And I'll paint that later, and that's going to look really, really cool. This model, except for painting that area there and weathering it up, gluing these windows in, and of course we got the top there, is done. I mean, I got a little tiny bit of touch-up paint here to do, and wonderful Lou Dalmaso of Aztec Dummy vinyl transfers and decals and other such wonderful things and items he makes, is going to make us up some stencils and some transfers so we can put Sky and Diver over there, and number one for the tail and stuff. But other than that, really, it's done. I'm going to paint the inside all black, just so it looks all tidy in there, because we're going to be waiting for a while Dave Welch makes the custom cylinder for this with the ballast system that'll actually make this function, and 2 pump jacks, which I have upstairs, that'll actually make this function. That's going to be the simpler part of the build, is putting that cylinder in, hooking up the electronics, and testing this in the pool, which is more the bathtub in our case, and then eventually the pool, which is going to be a lot of fun. Fixing G. Lynn's model, the one that got broken up pretty bad. Not hugely bad, but bad. I had a very interesting communication from G. Lynn, and he explained to me that when he got the model, which explains why I had not the same packing, is that whoever opened it, and I'm guessing it was probably our boys here in the United States of America, that popped the sucker open, because it just, I don't know, there are just things about it that tipped me off. But one of the things that I found was that he told me that they did not put back in the packing material. He said it was delivered to him in basically the wooden crate, I believe. They also broke this down here. And it had no foam around it. It wasn't wrapped or packed in anything. It was just loose with some strange brown material on the top of it. So obviously this was done intently. It was opened up and it was cracked open by hand, and I can see right here where they had tried to pop it open more to get a look inside. I think they were looking to see that there was nothing illegal being stuck in here. And what I don't get is why there's white paint on the model too, because there clearly was not any white paint on this model. So there's a lot of really strange things I'm finding on it. Now I'm looking at the magnification. So what I'm doing is going around and I'm fixing these problems here. I have resoldered these lights. Somehow they damaged 3 of them, but I don't think it's going to cause a problem because there's plenty of lights to light up the neck. I also have to put back in the impulse engines, which I'm waiting for this to get a little bit warmer to get these back in position. And then we're going to put this up inside, and then we're going to close it and use more of this glue here. And it all sounds simple enough. What's the big deal, Steve? You know, well, it is a huge deal. This model was perfect. And once it's closed and everything else, then I have to go back over it and I have to check for light leaks, and I'm finding lots of little places where they've cracked and compromised all the way around this entire model, making it very costly and labor intensive to repair. What I'm going to do, probably much to the horror of many of you, is I'm going to ship this model back in a cardboard box. This will be packed solidly in foam, and it'll be wrapped in foam and all this thing, and it's going to be inside of a cardboard box, and then that cardboard box is going to be placed inside of another larger cardboard box with lots of foam around it and stuff, and it's going to be shipped that way, and bubble wrap on the outside. Reason for is that when you ship something in a wooden box, it just screams, I'm special, you should look inside of me, especially when it's going overseas. They're going to get in there. Now, you can put a wooden box inside of a cardboard box, and that might help. And I know that some of our people in the industry that also make models do that. But we're just going to do the cardboard box because I think it'll slip by customs. It will not be inspected. They will not be drawn attention to that way. That's my hope. So that hopefully when it goes back, it won't get damaged again, this kind of thing. So we're going to come back in a little while after I get this neck attached down, which I'm getting just about ready to do. Actually, I can start doing this part now. I don't have much to work with here, so I have to be careful so that I don't yank out electrical wiring that I have in here, which will make the problem worse of fixing it, because then I have to rip open the saucer section to get inside. So I'm being very careful. Luckily, I was very thorough when I made all my electrical attachments and connections to use proper soldering joints and lots of shrink tubing, so that they're very strong. That really saved this model from the hands of the dumb kluxes who had their hands on it. So that's gonna be good. I'm just gonna let that cool a bit. I can't go anywhere now, and theoretically I should be able to get this back up inside. It's a little tricky. That should go up in there, and we should have neck lights again, in theory. And we certainly do. Boy, there's lots of light leaks. They chip this thing really good. And that should go down like that into there, like so. Whew. Scary stuff. And of course, now I got to figure out how I'm going to keep it attached here so I can glue it. But we'll come back for that fun in a few minutes. As promised, we're back, and we're on the B camera. Thank you, Mary. We have fixed this problem back here, which was cracked clean open, and some really messy stuff going on here. Maybe they were trying to pry this up to see further inside, but you can see, if you go close, Mary, you can see the cracks here and the stuff that I have to repair. But you can also see that everything's lighting up just fine and everything's fine. This is really strong. I mean, I tell you, this thing is so strong. It must have taken one heck of a customs gorilla to rip this thing open the way it did, because I'm finding it difficult. This thing is a very, very strong model when it's glued together properly, and it is. But we are all back together. I'm holding it this way so you can see everything's lit up and beautiful. One more time. Now I have to go in here, and you won't see that in this week's video, but you will see next week how I go inside here and get rid of these problems and fix these chips and stuff, which is what has to be done next, and then the model can be shipped back. I'm very pleased that it wasn't worse.
Hi, we're coming to the Q&A portion of our show, and I have some emails here with questions. And the first one comes from Bob Neill. It says, "Hello, Steve and Mary. Was wondering if you covered the history of the skydive in an earlier video, and I just missed viewing it. If so, can you let me know? If not, was wondering how it came into being."
First of all, Bob, are you kidding me? I mean, really, I'm sorry. I couldn't resist that. I really couldn't. Okay, not everybody knows what the skydiver is. Not everybody's familiar with Jerry Anderson, an incredible designer of all kinds of wonderful things. And to answer your question, yes, it comes from a TV show in the 60s called UFO. It was fairly popular. It was British made. And it had all kinds of great stuff in it that had to do with UFOs penetrating the Earth's atmosphere and coming into Earth and causing all kinds of problems. So they created this whole organization called Shadow, which monitored the activity and had all kinds of great vehicles, of which the skydiver was one of them. It was a submarine that launched an aircraft to intercept UFOs that were seen on radar. And it did a really good job. And so that's where that comes from.
Okay, great. Our next question, let me see, let me scroll up here. This one is from Charles Conover. He says, "In the opening of your show, you asked for questions. I would ask that you clarify your relationship, if any, with V. Neill.
Oh, okay.
There was an old picture of the two of you together, labeled as a date. You mentioned in this week's show that she applied makeup to you during a movie shoot, Laser Blast. Then there's a similarity in your last names, though I know V. Neill is not the name she was born with. Anyway, I'm sure this is not the specific type of question you were soliciting, but it is what I was wondering."
No, Charles, actually, that's a great question, and it's been asked before. V and I were twins, and we were separated at birth. No, I'm just kidding. V, I met her when we were both part of a rock band in the 70s, I think 1975, called Zolarex, a space band. And she was doing their makeup, and I had met them, and I was going to do prosthetic makeup for their band, for their live show. And so we met. She had a big interest in makeup. She was fascinated by the prosthetics and all the things it was doing. We became a couple. And we used to go out a lot, made up as everything from Planet of the Apes to what you saw, and cruised the boulevard, Sunset Boulevard, to be specific, and Santa Monica, and went to Troubadour and the Roxy and the Rainbow and all those kinds of places, and it was a lot of fun, and that's where that one picture came from. Now, as time went on, I started to get jobs on movies, and of course V worked on them with me at the beginning. In fact, I'm pretty sure I was the one that brought her in on Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which was really
a platform or a movie that really launched her career, and she went from there because she met a lot of great people like Fred Phillips, who I had originally met back through Bob Schiffer over at Disney Studios when that Shaggy Dog makeup came up, and then later Fred was so kind to have asked me to work on Star Trek. And so V and I have been friends ever since. Of course, we obviously went our separate ways, but we always stayed in touch. We've always been friends, and we are to this day. And oh yes, and her name was Vionity, and it got shortened to V. And she also used my last name. It was convenient for both of us because we were working in the industry. And a lot of people thought we were married. We weren't, but she did keep the last name, and that was fine by me.
Okay, next question. Okay.
Drum roll.
Drum roll, yes, I'm looking for the next question. Okay, this is from Jason over at Video Workbench. My question to Steve. What happened to your practical makeup effects movie career? Was it that overuse of CGI and the work dried up, or were there other reasons? You're a very talented person, and it's a shame that you're not working in the movie related projects more. Keep up the great work on the show.
Well, thank you. You know, there are a lot of reasons that I stopped doing prosthetic makeup. Part of it was my fault because I wasn't, you know, I was kind of losing interest in it, and I wanted to do more stuff with props and models and things like that. But also, of course, my late wife Jilly was fighting cancer off and on. And then there's the other part that the industry became very, very competitive. When I first started, okay, I came to Los Angeles in '74. Maybe it was '73, but I started living here in '74. And I met Fred Phillips, Joe Belasco, and Rick Baker right away. There were not a lot of us. We were the first wave of long-haired, hippie, rock and roller artists who thought that makeup effects was the coolest thing we'd ever seen. And it's all because of Dick Smith's book, the Monster Makeup Handbook that he made for famous monsters. That's what really hooked us all. So, you know, prior to that period, you know, makeup artists were from a different era. They wore suits and ties and lab smocks and had short hair. And, you know, it was a whole different thing. And we came in, and there were not a lot of us. We were, like I said, we were the first wave of the sort of new era of prosthetic makeup artists. But what we did is we got lots of shows, and prosthetic makeup and creature effects and puppets became very, very big. And we hired lots of people to work with us, and they in turn learned how we did things. We were very good artists themselves. They went out and opened their shops, own shops. People came to work for them, they worked at their shops, they opened their own shops, and so forth. It was kind of an exponential rate that there were so many people doing it, became very competitive, and there wasn't as much work to go around, so I started getting less and less work. Now, up to a few years ago, I was still doing the odd project here and there, but then when my wife got sick, I really got focused in on things I could do at home and not have to leave and not be on a set because I had to take care of her. So I started doing the Enterprise over there and lots of models, and that led to customers wanting me to build models, and it kind of went that way. We are trying to get back on track now, doing more makeup effects, prosthetics, and creature work, because I really miss it and we really want to keep doing it. So hopefully very soon here we'll be doing that kind of work again.
I think there's one more question. Let me find it. Yes. This one is from, let's see, Michael Haston. Great YouTube channel, Steve and Mary. I'm sending you an email on advice from your last video. I notice you never wear a respirator, N95 mask, or airbrush when airbrushing. Airbrush booth, that is. I know you're airbrushed for decades, so how are your lungs? I'm probably hypersensitive about this since I'm a respiratory therapist for almost 30 years. I hope the little movie I made opens. A friend sent this alien kit toy knowing I go to C-sections in my job. I repainted it, and my friend suggested using the 3 alien babies that he also sent to me. Made this for my co-workers for Halloween. Thanks for your demo on using 2-part epoxy. and added paint for the alien eyes. Works great. Thanks, Mike Haston.
Well, you're very welcome, and we did try to open your video and it would not allow us to. It sent you a request to give us permission to look at it, so hopefully we'll get to look at that pretty soon. Actually, I do wear a respirator, double respirator. I have 2 of them, and I use it all the time. It's just that when it's on my face, you can't hear me talk. So when we're doing the videos, a lot of times you'll see me just doing little touch-ups, little sprayings here and there, but you have to be able to hear me. Normally I do use one, and I do use adequate ventilation. We could use a spray booth. We are looking into that. We have a lot of stuff here to build a very large one. We're going to use on Doug's My Favorite Martian machine spaceship, but we're thinking of downsizing that, making it into a smaller one, so that we can put it near the door, because there's really no place to vent here otherwise. But yes, my lungs are fine. I had an x-ray done not too long ago, and I'm very, very lucky after working with all this stuff for years. I am fine. Thank you very much for your question.
Well, that concludes our questions for this week. Please keep them coming, and we will see you next week. Thanks.
Well, it's been a great week. We got a lot done, and I think that Skydiver is just about there. What do you think? Geez, it keeps going on and on, but you know, really, it's done until we get the cylinder for it. So we're going to start moving on to Martians Attack SNG, and I also want to remember to thank our dear sweet friend Elliot Brown of Warm Plastic for his generous contribution to SNG of sending us a bunch of scrap styrene, which is really important because we use it for all kinds of scratching and bashing and making parts and everything, as you've seen me do. Elliot, thanks so much. And also thank you for the tripod head you sent, which we are using at this very moment while shooting this ending. Thank you, Elliot. Also, as always, don't forget to subscribe. There's a subscribe button right there on the screen that you can click on, and will instantly subscribe to our channel. And we will now leave you with our picture of the week from Gallery Infinity. Thanks, everyone.